The arrival of the unknown. The twin suns of Aurelius Prime burned bright above the Star Empire's capital city, their golden lights spilling across towers of crystal and metal. The Imperial Hall, the heart of the galaxy's most powerful empire, was filled with the sound of soft music, echoing footsteps, and the low murmur of alien voices. Courtiers in long silk robes moved between pillars as tall as mountains, their faces calm, their eyes sharp. The Star Emperor sat on his throne of black stone, wearing a crown of living silver. For 1,000 years, no human had ever been allowed. In this hall, then the doors opened, and silence fell. Guards in silver armor stepped aside, and a lone figure walked in. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and wore a coat of dark leather. His eyes were calm, but there was something dangerous about him. He walked with slow steps, as if he feared no one in the room. The courtiers whispered, "A human. Here, this is impossible." Some laughed softly, thinking this was a mistake that would end with his death. The man stopped in the center of the hall. He looked at the Emperor without bowing. "My name," he said, his voice deep and clear, "is Elias Ward." No one spoke. The Emperor's face stayed like stone. "I have come," Elias said, "with a message only you can hear." The Emperor leaned forward, his silver crown catching the sunlight. "And what makes you think," the Emperor said slowly, "that I would hear anything from a human?" Elias' lips curved in the smallest of smiles. "Because," he said, "this message is about your daughters." The hall erupted into chaos. The courtiers gasped. Some shouted. The guards moved closer, their weapons glowing with blue fire. No outsider had spoken of the Emperor's daughters in public. It was forbidden. The Emperor's voice cut through the noise. "Explain." Elias reached into his coat slowly. Every guard's weapon hummed louder, ready to fire. He pulled out a small crystal device, no larger than his hand. With a touch, the device lit up. A shimmering image appeared in the air. Two young women, alien in beauty, but with smiles that felt strangely human. They were holding newborn children, wrapped in soft silver cloth. The hall went silent again. Every courtier stared at the image. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "What trick is this?" "No trick," Elias said. "Your daughters are alive, and they carry my heirs." The words struck like a thunderclap. Several guards stepped forward to seize him, but the Emperor raised a hand. "Not yet," he said, his voice heavy. He stood from the throne, his tall form casting a shadow over Elias. "If you lie," the Emperor said, "I will tear the truth from your soul." "And if I tell the truth?" Elias asked calmly. "Then," the Emperor said, "the galaxy will change forever." The courtiers watched with wide eyes. They had heard tales of humans, stubborn, dangerous, quick to fight. But no one had seen one stand before the Emperor. Without fear, the Emperor's hand waved, and the great doors at the side of the hall opened. Two advisors stepped in, their robes glittering with stars sewn in silver thread. They took the crystal device from Elias and examined it. Their faces turned pale. "It is real," one whispered. The other nodded. "The children. They have the Emperor's bloodline." The Emperor turned back to Elias. His voice was quieter now, but colder. "Why have you come? You could have hidden. You could have stayed in the shadows." Elias' eyes hardened. "Because your empire is not safe, not for them," he said. "There's a storm coming from the outer rim, and when it arrives, it will destroy everything, including your family." Some laughed again, calling him a fool, but others felt a shiver of fear. The outer rim was a place of old nightmares, a place where ancient enemies still waited. If Elias spoke the truth, the Star Empire was in danger. The Emperor stepped closer, so near that Elias could see the lines of age and war on his face. "You will tell me everything," the Emperor said. "And if I find one lie..." He let the sentence hang. Elias did not blink. "I have no lies to give you," he said, "only a warning." "And a choice." The Emperor stared at him for a long moment. Finally, he gestured to the guards. "Take him to the chamber of questions," he said. The guards closed in, their boots striking the floor in unison. As they led Elias away, he looked over his shoulder at the Emperor, and in that look there was no fear, only the calm of a man who knew a storm was coming. Outside the hall, the city of Aurelius Prime glittered under the twin suns. But in the shadows between its towers, whispers were already spreading. A human had come to the Emperor's throne. He had spoken of the royal daughters, and of children who might change the fate of the galaxy. The first spark of a fire had been lit, and no one could see how far the flames would burn. The Emperor's fury, the Chamber of Questions, was not a prison. It was worse. It was deep beneath the Imperial Hall, built from black stone taken from a dead star. The air inside was cold, heavy, and silent. No sound could escape its walls, and no lie could survive within them. Elias Ward sat at the center of the room on a simple metal chair. His hands were not chained, but 10 guards stood in a circle around him, weapons in hand. Across from him stood Lord Koresh, the Emperor's High Inquisitor, tall, thin, and dressed in robes the color of old blood. Koresh's eyes were pale and unblinking. He had broken kings before, made soldiers cry, but the human just sat there, waiting above them in his private war chamber. The Emperor paced like a caged predator. The crystal device lay on the table, still glowing faintly with the image of his daughters and the children. He had not taken his eyes off it for hours. The daughters were smiling in the image, truly smiling, a thing he had not seen since they were children. The sight stirred something in him, but it also burned him with rage. The Star Emperor was not a man used to surprises. For centuries, he had controlled the galaxy's largest army, crushed rebellions, bent alien kings to his will. Now a human had walked into his hall and thrown his family into chaos. "Summon the Council of Blades," the Emperor said at last, his voice low but dangerous. "They will see this, and they will decide how this human dies." The Council of Blades was made of 12 of the Empire's most powerful warlords. Each commanded fleets, armies, and planets. They arrived within the hour, their armor polished, their faces grim. The Emperor showed them the image. Some scoffed, calling it a trick. Others looked uneasy. And one, Admiral Sorrel, the only female among them, leaned forward and said, "If it is true, Majesty, then those children are heirs to your throne." The words hung in the air like a blade. For the first time, someone had spoken it aloud. The thought of human blood sitting on the throne of the Star Empire made many in the room tense, but it also made them curious. The Emperor's voice cut through the tension. "I will have the truth from him. And if it is a lie, his death will be a lesson to every human who dreams too high." Back in the Chamber of Questions, Lord Koresh stepped closer to Elias. "You speak of the Emperor's daughters," Koresh said, his voice soft but sharp. "This is not only forbidden, it is dangerous." Elias' gaze did not waver. "Dangerous truths are still truths," he said. Koresh tilted his head, studying the human like a strange animal. "Why would they choose you? A human, from a race our empire barely notices?" Elias' lips curved into a small smile. "Because I was there when they needed me," he said. "I protected them when your fleets could not." The High Inquisitor's pale eyes narrowed. "And what makes you think they belong to you?" "They don't belong to me," Elias said quietly. "They belong to themselves and to their children above them." The Emperor had activated the chamber's truth field. Every word spoken below now reached his ears. Every heartbeat recorded. He listened in silence. The human's voice was calm, even when he spoke of the daughters, and there was no tremor of falsehood in his tone. But the Emperor's fury was not fading. It grew hotter the more he thought about the years his daughters had been missing, the empty places at royal feasts, the unanswered questions. And now this human stood here as if nothing he had done was a crime. The Emperor descended into the Chamber of Questions. The guards bowed as he entered. Eliza did not move. For a long moment, the two simply stared at each other, Emperor and outsider, ruler and intruder. Then the Emperor spoke. "My daughters are the blood of the Star Throne," he said. "They were born to rule. not to vanish into the shadows of lesser worlds. They chose to leave, Elias said. They chose freedom. Guards shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke to the Emperor like this. The Emperor stepped closer until he was only a pace away. You are bold for a man who could die before this day ends. Elias' eyes stayed locked on his. I came knowing that, he said. But I also came knowing that you need me. Dangerous silence filled the chamber. The Emperor's jaw tightened. Need you? For what? Elias' voice dropped lower. The outer rim is stirring, he said. An old enemy moves again, one that your fleets cannot stop, the Emperor's. Eyes narrowed. You speak of the Karth Dominion? Elias nodded once. They are coming, and they will strike at your bloodline first, because they know it is your weakness. The mention of the Karth Dominion made even the guards shift uneasily. It had been centuries since their name was spoken. In the throne world, the Karth were more than an enemy. They were a nightmare from history. And if Elias was telling the truth, then war was coming. The Emperor turned away, his silver crown glinting in the chamber's pale light. Take him to the Tower of Chains, he ordered the guards. Feed him, keep him alive. I will decide his fate when the sun rises. As the guards led Elias away, he looked up toward the twin suns glowing faintly through the glass ceiling of the outer corridor. Somewhere out there, the Emperor's daughters were waiting, and the storm from the outer rim was already on its way. The Emperor remained in the chamber of questions long after they had gone. He stared at the floating image of his daughters and the half-human children. For the first time in many years, the Emperor felt something he did not like, not anger, not pride, but doubt, and doubt, in the heart of the galaxy's most powerful man, was a dangerous thing. The daughter's secret long before Elias Ward stood in the Emperor's hall. The royal palace had felt emptier. The Emperor's twin daughters, Princess Serenia and Princess Liara, had vanished during the Festival of Suns. For weeks, the Star Empire searched every system, sent fleets to the edge of known space. No trace, no message, only silence. The Emperor believed they had been taken by enemies, but the truth was stranger. The sisters had not been captured. They had left on their own. Serenia, the elder, was bold, quick to challenge rules. Liara, the younger, was quiet, but her eyes held endless curiosity. They were tired of being watched, guarded, and told what they could not do. One night, they took a royal courier ship and vanished into the star lanes. No guards, no escort, just a stolen flight plan to the human colonies. The colonies were nothing like the shining worlds of the Star Empire. Their cities were smaller, rougher, built with steel and stone instead of crystal. But they were alive, markets full of voices, streets filled with children running. It was here, in the crowded port of Haven Reach, that they first saw Elias Ward. He was not a soldier then, not in uniform. He was unloading crates from a cargo hauler, laughing with the dock workers. Something about him caught Serenia's attention. Maybe it was the way he moved, ready for trouble but not looking for it. Liara noticed the same thing, though she said nothing. They had only meant to watch the human world for a few days. But that night, trouble came faster than they expected. The port alarms screamed. Pirates from the outer belt were attacking. Sleek black ships dropped from the sky. Fire tore through the docks. People scattered in panic. Serenia grabbed her sister's hand and pulled her toward their ship, but before they reached it, a group of raiders landed in front of them. The pirates saw two well-dressed women with no guards and grinned. They didn't know they were looking at royal blood. They only saw valuable hostages. Before the pirates could grab them, a voice cut through the smoke. Step away from them. Elias Ward stepped into view. A heavy wrench in one hand. The pirates laughed, 1 man against 6. But their laughter ended quickly. Elias moved like a storm, fast and precise. 2 went down before they could fire. Another's weapon clattered across the floor as Elias drove him into a wall. Serenia had fought before. All royal children were trained, but she had never seen someone fight like this. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't pretty, it was survival. By the time the last pirate hit the ground, Smoke was curling from burning ships. Elias turned to them, breathing hard. "You two need to get out of here," he said. Serenia stared. "You just saved our lives." Elias shrugged. "You looked like you needed it." They didn't tell him who they were, not then. Instead, they followed him through the chaos to an old cargo shuttle hidden at the far end of the port. He took them to a safe house in the lower city, a place the pirates wouldn't dare enter without losing half their number. Days turned into weeks. The sisters helped repair ships, traded stories with dockhands, learned to cook human meals. They laughed more in those weeks than they had in years behind palace walls. Elias taught them how to fix an engine, how to shoot a pistol, how to blend into a crowd. In return, they taught him alien songs, showed him how to read the stars without machines. One night, after the port had gone quiet, Liara asked him why. He had fought for them when he didn't even know them. Elias just said, "Doesn't matter who you are. If someone's in trouble and I can help, I will." Serenia looked at him for a long time after that, not as a rescuer, but as someone who might truly understand freedom. When the pirates returned months later with more ships and heavier guns, Elias didn't send them away. He stood with them, side by side, and together. They drove the raiders off for good. It was during the aftermath of that battle that the bond between them changed. Not just trust, something deeper, something they knew the Emperor would never approve. They stayed hidden for nearly a year, but life had its own way of revealing secrets. When the sisters found they were carrying new life, half human, half royal blood, they knew they couldn't hide forever. The children would need protection. And eventually, the galaxy would learn the truth. It was Serenia who said the words first. "When the time comes, Elias, you'll have to face him." Elias looked at the stars beyond the viewport and nodded. "That time will come," he said, "and when it does, the Emperor will listen, whether he wants to or not." Asterisk threat from the outer rim. The Emperor's palace had never known silence like this. No music, no voices in the halls, only the slow, heavy toll of the war bells. A sound that had not been heard in 100 years. The bells meant one thing: the outer rim was moving. The Emperor stood in the high observatory, a chamber of glass that looked out over the galaxy. From here, stars glittered like cold fire, but tonight, several were missing, whole systems gone from the maps. The messenger knelt before him, armor scorched, voice shaking. "My Emperor, the Karth Dominion has returned." The words seemed to darken the room. Even the guards shifted uneasily. Everyone knew the Karth. Ancient, merciless, a predator race from beyond the Empire's borders. They did not conquer planets, they erased them. The Emperor's mind went back to Elias Ward's warning in the Chamber of Questions. A storm is coming from the outer rim, and it will destroy everything. At the time, he had thought it was arrogance. Now he was not so sure. Lord Koresh entered, his crimson robes whispering across the floor. "The Karth have struck 3 colonies in the last week," he said. "No survivors. They are moving toward the core." "How many ships?" the Emperor asked. Koresh's pale eyes dropped. "Too many to count. Their fleets. They are different, stronger, faster than before." From the shadows of the chamber, Admiral Sorrel stepped forward. "Their tactics have changed," she said. "They use cloaked advance ships, hit hard, vanish before reinforcements arrive. It's not war, it's hunting." The Emperor's hands tightened on the rail of the observatory. The Karth were not like other enemies. They did not send demands, they did not take prisoners, they simply moved. And worlds died. Below the palace, in the Tower of Chains, Elias Ward stood at the narrow window of his cell. From here, he could see the faint glow of the outer rim, a haze of distant light in the black. He knew what that glow meant. It was the same color he had seen years ago, when the Karth burned his homeworld sky. He heard the door open behind him. 2 guards stepped aside to let Admiral Sorrel in. She studied him for a long moment. "You knew this was coming," she said. "I told your Emperor," Elias replied. "And now?" "Now," Elias said, He has to decide whether to keep me here or let me save him in the Emperor's war room. The Council of Blades argued over strategy. Some demanded the use of the Grand Fleet, a wall of massive battleships that had never been defeated. Others warned that Karth would tear the fleet apart the way they had broken the outer colonies. It was chaos, voices rising, until the Emperor raised a single hand. "This enemy moves like shadow," he said. "They are ghosts in the dark. Our fleets are strong, but slow." Then he remembered Elias' words in the chamber, "Use fast ships. Strike before they can strike you." The Emperor hated the thought of giving a human credit, but the truth was harder to ignore now. In the Tower of Chains, Admiral Sorel's voice was low, urgent. "If you truly know how to stop them, tell me." Elias turned from the window. "You can't stop them head on. You have to cut out their heart," he said. "They have a mothership, a war hive, deep in the Nabora Vale. Destroy that, and their fleets will scatter." Sorel frowned. "The Nabora Vale is death. No ship survives its storms." "My ships will," Elias said. "Your ships?" Elias gave a small smile. "I never came here alone. Far out beyond the Empire's edge, hidden in the magnetic storms of a dead star, a fleet of human strike. Ships waited, small, fast, built for speed and surprise. They were nothing like the massive cruisers of the Star Empire, but in the hands of the right commander, they could punch through the heart of the Karth." In the palace, the Emperor faced his council. "The Karth are not here to fight us," he said. "They are here to end us." The warlords fell silent. The Emperor's voice dropped lower. "To face such a threat, I may have to put my bloodline in the hands of a human." No one spoke, not because they agreed, but because no one dared argue when the Emperor's gaze burned like this. The decision was forming in his mind. He would bring Elias Ward back to the throne room, and if the human failed, the galaxy would see his execution. But far out among the dark edges of the map, the Karth Dominion was already on the move. Their war hives pulsed with red light, and in the silence of deep space, millions of their ships waited for the order to strike. The storm Elias had promised had finally arrived. The human strategy. The Tower of Chains opened at dawn. Elias Ward stepped out, the cold air biting his face. 2 guards walked ahead, 2 behind. But this was not a prisoner's march. This was an escort to the throne room. Inside, the Emperor waited. The council had been dismissed, the warlords sent to prepare their fleets. Only Admiral Sorel and Lord Koresh stood at his side. The crystal device with the image of the daughters and children was gone. Now the war table was lit with a moving map of the galaxy. Red marks spread across the outer rim like blood seeping into cloth. The Emperor's gaze was sharp. "You claim you can reach the Karth war hive," he said. "I can," Elias replied. "And destroy it?" "If I can reach it, yes," Elias said. The Emperor's jaw tightened. "You will have one chance. Fail, and I will kill you myself." Lord Koresh stepped forward, his pale eyes cold. "This is madness," he said. "Giving a human our fleet." "I don't want your fleet," Elias cut in. "I want my ships. My crew, my way." That silenced Koresh. Admiral Sorel arched a brow. "Where are these ships?" she asked. Elias stepped to the map and tapped the dark space near the Nabora Vale. "Here, waiting. Hidden where no scanner can find them." Koresh scoffed. "Storm space. A graveyard for starships." Elias looked at him. "Only if you don't know how to navigate it." The Emperor studied the map. "You will have support," he said. "I will send 6 of my fastest destroyers to follow you." Elias shook his head. "They'll only slow me down. The Karth will see them coming from 100 light years away." "You refuse imperial escort?" the Emperor asked. "I refuse anything that will get us killed before we fire a shot," Elias said. The room went still. No one denied the Emperor and lived. But instead of ordering his death, the Emperor leaned back in his throne. "Very well. You will do it your way. But if you fail, The blame will be yours alone. Hours later, the Emperor's personal hangar opened to space. A shuttle waited to take Elias beyond the core worlds. Admiral Sorrel approached him at the ramp. "If you succeed, the Emperor may forgive you," she said. "I'm not here for his forgiveness." Elias replied, "I'm here to stop the Karth." The shuttle slipped into the star lanes. Elias stood at the forward viewport. Watching the twin suns of Aurelius Prime fade behind him, he keyed a sequence into the console, a signal no Imperial would recognize. Minutes later, a shape emerged from the swirling blue of hyperspace. Then another and another, the human strike. Fleet arrived in formation, sleek black hulls, small enough to vanish into asteroid shadows. Engines humming with a low predatory growl. Each ship's captain was human. Hardened by years of border wars and pirate hunts, they did not salute Elias. They nodded. This was not a military parade. This was a hunt. A voice crackled over Combs. "Good to see you breathing, Ward." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "Good to see you ready for work, Vega," he said. Captain Vega's laughter rolled through the channel. "So, who are we hitting this time?" Elias' voice hardened. "The Karth War Hive." There was a brief silence. Then Vega replied, "About time." They moved fast, through the dark edges of mapped space. Across empty systems where no light touched the planets, Elias knew the Karth would have scouts, but the humans had tricks, stealth fields, false transponder codes, decoy drones, everything built to confuse an enemy that hunted by instinct as much as by sensors. At the edge of the Nabura Vale, the fleet slowed. The storm filled the viewport, a vast twisting wall of glowing dust and black lightning. Inside, the gravity storms could rip a battleship in two, but Elias had charted a path years ago. He sent it to every captain. "Follow my lead," he said, "and whatever happens, do not break formation." They entered the storm. Lightning flashed across the hulls. Waves of gravitational force pulled at the ships like invisible hands. Every captain held their breath. If one ship lost control, the chain reaction could kill them all. Halfway through, a shadow moved in the storm, not a rock, not a ship, something alive, a storm predator, large enough to swallow a cruiser whole. It drifted toward them, drawn by the hum of engines. "Stay steady," Elias said over Comes. The creature slid past, its glowing eyes following them. Then it vanished into the dark. Minutes later, the storm thinned. The black emptiness of deep space opened before them. And there, far ahead, hung the Karth War Hive. It was not a ship. Not truly, it was a living fortress. A massive sphere of bone and metal. Its surface writhed with movement. Millions of Karth crawling across its skin. The hive's core pulsed red. A slow heartbeat that could be felt even through the ships. "Hulls," Elias stared at it. "This is it," he said quietly. "Once we hit them, there's no going back." Vega's voice came over Combs. "Then let's make sure they don't get up again." In that moment, Elias Ward stopped being a prisoner, stopped being just a human in the Star Emperor's shadow. He was a hunter, and the galaxy's deadliest prey was finally in sight, *blood. And loyalty. The Karth War Hive loomed larger with every passing second. Its surface was a nightmare. Black bone, rusted metal, and pulsing red veins that glowed like molten lava. The closer the human strike fleet came, the more the air inside. The ships seemed to thicken. It wasn't fear. It was the weight of what they were about to do. Elias Ward stood on the bridge of his lead ship, Black Star. The crew worked in silence. Every man and woman focused. Through the viewport, they could see the hive's docking maws opening. Vast circular jaws lined with teeth of steel. The Karth were waking. "Vega, bring the outer wings in tight," Elias ordered. "On your word." Vega's voice came back over Combs, steady but sharp. Then a voice Elias didn't expect crackled through the channel. "Permission to join." "The hunt." He froze. He knew that voice. It had been years, but the tone carried the same mix of pride and defiance. "Serenia?" Elias said. The cum line split, and a second voice joined. You didn't think we'd let you have all the glory, did you? Liara teased. Two silver-hulled ships broke formation and slid into view. They bore the crest of the Star Empire and the banners of the royal family. The Emperor's daughters had come to fight. I told you to stay hidden, Elias said. And we told you we don't take orders, Serenia replied. Liara's voice was softer, but firm. Besides, this is our fight too. Elias didn't have time to argue. Karth's swarm ships erupted from the hive, black and sharp like blades. They came in waves, hundreds at first, then thousands. The human fleet tightened its formation, shields flaring. Under enemy fire, Elias' voice rang over Cums. Hold the line. Wait for my mark. The first wave hit hard. Karth fighters darted in close, spitting acid rounds that burned through metal. The Black Star shook under the impact. Two human ships went dark, spinning into the hive's gravity pull. But the fleet held. They moved. Like a single living thing, weaving through fire. This wasn't the brute force style of the Star Empire. This was a predator's dance. Serenia's ship cut through a cluster of Karth fighters, her voice sharp over Cums. Clear on the left. Flank. Liara's was right behind her, firing precision bursts that tore enemy wings apart. The sisters fought like they had trained with the fleet their whole lives. And maybe, Elias thought, they had been training for this moment all along. The hive's core began to pulse faster. More docking maws opened. They're trying to surround us. Vega warned. They think they're the hunters, Elias said. They're wrong. He keyed the fleet-wide channel. All ships, mark this point. A beacon lit up on their nav maps. Right at the hive's exposed underbelly. We break their heart now, or we don't leave at all. Elias said. The fleet split, half drawing the Karth into a chase. The rest dove with Elias straight toward the beacon. Lightning fire from the hive tore into their shields, one by one. Smaller ships were ripped apart, but the Black Star kept going. Engines screaming as they punched through the final defense line. Inside the hive shadow, the sisters stayed tight on Elias' flanks. Ready torpedoes, Elias ordered. The weapons officer's hands hovered over the launch keys. In range, she said. Elias looked to the left, saw Serenia's determined face through her viewport. Looked to the right, saw Lyra's calm focus. He gave the word, fire. The void lit up. Dozens of torpedoes streaked into the hive's underbelly. The red pulse inside flared white, then exploded outward. The shockwave tore through the swarm, shredding Karth ships in every direction. The hive itself split apart, chunks of black bone spinning into space, for the first time in centuries. The Karth screamed. The human fleet regrouped, battered but alive. Cheers erupted over Cums. But Elias didn't cheer. He was already watching his sensors. The Karth were retreating. They weren't gone forever. But they were running on. The Cum, Serenia's voice came, softer now. You saved more than the Empire today, she said. Liara added. And now, Father will have to hear you. Elias let out a slow breath. This was never about him hearing me, he said. It was about making sure those children have a future. As the fleet turned for home, the wreckage of the Karth hive drifted. In silence, the battle was over, but the war for loyalty and for the future of the Star Empire had only just begun. A new future, the twin suns of Aurelius Prime rose over the capital. Their light touched the towers of crystal and metal, but it could not soften the tension in the imperial hall. The emperor sat on his throne. The council of blades gathered at his sides. The war table was gone, replaced by a single silver platform. Upon it stood Elias Ward, the emperor's daughters Serenia and Liara, and the children, two small figures, one boy and one girl, their eyes bright and curious, half human, half royal, and heirs to a throne that had never shared blood with another species. The hall was silent, not because of fear, but because no one knew what the emperor would do. Lord Koresh stepped forward first, his voice cold. This is an outrage, he said. To place human blood in the line of the Star Throne is to weaken the Empire. Enough, the Emperor's voice cut through like a blade. Koresh froze, his eyes widening. I will hear no more from you, the Emperor said. If you cannot see what has happened, you are blind. He rose from the throne and walked toward Elias for a long moment. The two men faced each other, the ruler of the Star Empire and the man who had saved it. The Emperor's gaze moved to his daughters, then to the children, and something in his face shifted. The hardness did not vanish, but it was joined by something rarer, acceptance. You have done what my fleets could not, the Emperor said to Elias. You broke the Karth hive. You saved the core worlds. You protected my blood. Elias stayed still, his voice steady. I didn't do it for your throne. I did it for them, he said, glancing toward the children. The Emperor's lips curved in something almost like a smile. That may be why. You succeeded, the council murmured. Half were shocked that the Emperor was speaking without anger. The other half feared what might come next. The Emperor turned to the hall. These children, he said, his voice echoing through the chamber, will be recognized as heirs of the Star Throne. Their bloodline will unite human and royal forever. The reaction was instant, gasps, whispers, a few angry shouts. But no one dared challenge him openly. Serenia stepped forward, her chin high. Then the Empire must also recognize thee. Humans as allies, not subjects. The Emperor nodded slowly. They have earned that right. Elias spoke again. This alliance will only survive if both sides treat each other as equals. The Emperor gave a short, sharp nod. Agreed. But remember, Ward, peace is harder to hold than war. I know, Elias said. I'm ready for that fight too. The twins, the boy and girl, stepped forward without fear. The boy reached for the Emperor's hand, and for the first time in decades, the hall saw the ruler of the galaxy kneel. He looked into the eyes of his grandchildren, and the fire in his gaze was no longer only for battle. But in the shadows high above the hall, unseen by the crowd, a small black drone clung to the ceiling. Its single red eye blinked once before vanishing into nothing. Far away, beyond the Nabora Veil, another Karth hive stirred, larger, stronger, and watching. The Star Empire had a new future, but the galaxy had not finished testing it.